My wife didn't just betray me, she planned to erase me. She thought I was 7,000 miles away, trapped in a desert, a man she could discard like a piece of old equipment. But the game they were playing had rules they didn't understand. Because I wrote them. The email arrived while I was in Kandahar. 13 years of marriage, ended in a PDF attachment. The subject line read, "Let's be adults about this." 3 sentences. She'd filed for divorce. She'd emptied our joint account. And she'd moved her new boyfriend, Jeremy, into our house. I read it twice, closed my laptop. I walked to the communal showers, got dressed for my shift, and said nothing. That night, I replied with one word. Understood. My bunkmate, Wilson, knew something was wrong. But in the army, you learn to give a man his space. The truth is, I wasn't surprised. The months before deployment, I'd seen the signs. The late nights, the new passwords, the distance in her eyes. I didn't confront her. Confrontation is for amateurs. I'm a staff sergeant. I do contingency planning. Before I left, I'd made some quiet moves. I secured our important documents in a new storage unit. Birth certificates, military benefits, the deed to our house, which, thanks to my VA loan, was in my name only. I also opened a separate bank account and started diverting a small portion of my pay. Not enough to raise suspicion. Just enough to secure a foothold. The night I deployed, she hugged me at the airport. Her eyes were dry. It wasn't a wife saying goodbye to her husband. It was an employee giving their 2 weeks' notice. 2 weeks after her email, a bank notification buzzed on my phone. Another withdrawal, $8,500. I opened the app. Our joint account was down to $22. Our entire savings, $47,000 we'd built over a decade, was gone. That night, I logged into our home security system. Something she'd long forgotten I could access remotely. The camera feed loaded. A strange truck was in my driveway. A man I'd never seen was in my living room, wearing my Seahawks sweatshirt, using my coffee mug. And there was Becky, laughing. Something inside me shifted. Not anger, not sadness, something colder, clearer. This wasn't a marriage ending. It was a mission objective changing. I pulled out my phone and made a list. Call James, Army buddy, now a lawyer. Review VA loan terms. Review home security footage. This wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about strategy. 2 months later, I landed back on U.S. soil. I didn't tell Becky I was home. I checked into a cheap motel and met my lawyer, James, at a diner 10 miles out of town. He slid a folder across the table. "It's worse than you thought," he said. He showed me a refinance application for our house, for $30,000. My signature was on it, except, it wasn't my signature. It was a forgery. She listed her boyfriend, Jeremy, as a co-applicant, James said. He has a record. Fraud charge from 2019. I thought about the security footage, the laughter in my kitchen. I want what's legally mine, I said. And I want them to understand what a consequence is. The next day, I didn't go to the house. I went to the bank. I showed the loan officer my military ID. I showed him the real signature on my driver's license. I showed him the forged document. The color drained from his face. The next day, I filed paperwork at the county clerk's office. A formal notice. No changes could be made to the property without my physical presence. 2 days later, a frantic voicemail. "Nathan, we need to talk. The bank is calling about the house. What are you doing?" I still didn't respond. The trap was set. Now I just needed to watch them walk into it. James called that afternoon. "There's more," he said. "Jeremy was just arrested, driving on a suspended license. In your truck." They also found prescription pads in the truck. From the dental office where Becky works. They weren't blank. This was bigger than I thought. It wasn't just a cheating wife. This was a planned operation. James did some digging. Jeremy Ryan had a pattern. He targeted military spouses. He and a crooked real estate agent named Daniel Spencer would convince the women to sell their homes, fast and cheap, while their husbands were deployed. They'd take a cut, and he'd move on. My wife was either his latest victim, or his newest partner. That night, a text from Becky. "Please call me. Jeremy was arrested. The bank is saying something about fraud. I don't understand what's happening." The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, her reply. "I don't know what you're talking about." The FBI was already investigating Ryan and Spencer. My case, my evidence, was the key that could lock the door behind them. An agent named Patel told me not to confront them. "Let them think they're still in control," she said. The next day, Becky texted again. "Meet me at the park. We need to talk in person." "I'm not," I replied. "But while she's waiting for me at the park, I want to see who shows up at my house." We parked down the street and watched. At 9:45, Becky left, heading for the park. 20 minutes later, a different car pulled up. Daniel Spencer, the real estate agent. Jeremy came out to meet him. They went inside. "No need," I said, pulling out my phone. I installed interior cameras last year. They upload to a cloud. I opened the app. Spencer and Jeremy were in my living room. I turned up the volume. Should list by the end of the week, Spencer was saying. Got a cash buyer already. Spencer laughed. Military guys are all the same. They make noise, but he's got responsibilities. He'll take a settlement to make it go away. James was already recording the feed on his own phone. I forwarded the live security access to Agent Patel. The subject line was 2 words. Happening now. 30 minutes later, my neighborhood was a sea of flashing lights. I watched from down the street as agents led Spencer and Jeremy out in handcuffs. My phone rang. It was Patel. We got them, she said. On tape, discussing wire fraud, conspiracy, everything. And Mr. Briggs, your wife just arrived on scene. She's watching. I looked. Becky was standing on our lawn, her hand over her mouth, as the life she had stolen was packed into evidence boxes. The case was swift. Jeremy got 8 years. Spencer got 12. Becky maintained she was just another victim of his scheme. In exchange for a full confession about the forgery, full restitution of the money, and forfeiting any claim to the house or my pension, I agreed not to press charges. The divorce was finalized. Clean. A year later, I sold the house. I used the money to buy a small cabin in Montana. 10 acres. No neighbors. I retired from the Army and got a dog. One day, a letter arrived. It was from a Navy wife in Texas. The FBI had told her how my case had exposed the entire ring. You don't know me, she wrote, but you saved our home. Thank you for fighting back when it would have been easier to walk away. I pinned that letter to my fridge. My ex-wife thought my greatest strength was my loyalty, my willingness to endure hardship for a cause. She was right. She just never imagined that one day, she would become the enemy, and her downfall would become my cause. Sometimes, the most satisfying victory isn't rage or destruction. It's silence. It's success. And it's building a new life they can never touch.